Alrighty guys, today we are going to be driving the LS swapped 2nd gen Cyclone build for the very first time, which I am totally pumped about. Now it may not be a full-blown, full-throttle test drive because we are still waiting on a radiator that may or may not show up by the time I'm done filming this week's video. But at the very least, it's gonna be able to start up and move under its own power in and out of the shop, and then I can, get started on building the exhaust and stuff like that. So let's jump right in. Drivetrain is the first thing that we need to get taken care of. One of the things that made the original Cyclones and Typhoons so special, aside from the turbocharged V6, was the full-time all-wheel drive system. And that's one of the things that I have built many of, all-wheel drive pickup trucks, and I just love how they work. And this right here is the transfer case that I use in pretty much every single one of them. It's the NV149. It's a full-time all-wheel drive transfer case that sends about 38% of the power up to the front. The remaining 62% of the power goes to the rear. And the reason why I like this transfer case is because, one, the viscous coupler, it just works. And two, this whole case requires zero electronic intervention to work properly. It's just a mechanical device, kind of like a limited slip differential, and it just works. Now, the only problem for my application in the S10 is this is a transfer case designed for full-size pickup truck or a SUV, and it just sticks down too far on the output side of things here. So I ordered this clocking ring a while ago, and it arrived, but I really didn't like how it worked. This one's made from steel, 3/8 of an inch thick, and it centers here around this little ridge or shoulder on the transfer case, but the only thing that centers this into the back of the extension housing on the transmission are these 6 studs, and there is a fair amount of slop in there. I'll maybe get some B-roll to stick it in so I can show you guys how much that moves around. It is very strong because it's made from steel, but I didn't like how it wasn't centered. So I did a little bit more research or looking around, and I came up with this guy. I ordered it from WFO Concepts. It does have the Advanced Adapters logo on it, so they're probably the ones that makes it, but no matter. This is a superior design. One, it has a shoulder machined on the inside here, which will center the ring onto the transfer case, and then two, it has this raised edge, which will center this adapter or clocking ring to the transmission. So that way, the output shaft of the transmission, the input shaft of the transfer case are concentric. There's no extra wear that's going to be introduced. Now the only drawback to this particular adapter is it is a little bit thicker. It's 3/4 of an inch thick. So we do lose some more spline engagement compared to this one, but that's a trade-off I am willing to make. And whenever we do swap to a 4L80, I actually think I have a fix for that. You can put a slightly longer output shaft in. Anyway, we'll talk about that later, but for now with a 4L60 with the power level that we're gonna be at initially, I think this will work just great. So we'll get this thing installed. We'll get the alignment exactly where we want it because there's multiple options. Get our drive shafts back in, and then I've got a bunch more stuff to do, so we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. But let's get this transfer case in. All right, first thing we gotta do, just back these studs out. So we'll try the old double nut technique. And those are bent too. One tool I do not have, which I think I really should have, is one of those like stud grabber turner socket things. Could be really handy. It's a loud whistle. All right, so now you can kind of see why I like this adapter, because as I made an alignment mark, as it kind of goes on, slides right over that machined edge. Pretty tight fit actually. So that'll hold it perfectly centered there, and then this will do the same thing in the back of the transfer case, or the back of the transmission. Gasket in there before I send it home though. Good tight fit. Just what we want. For what? For extra insurance, I guess. In my mind, you get all these holes in here, there's a lot more chance to have a little leak. I don't like leaks. It's kind of like a one-shot deal. We get this lined up. So this is where our adapter is going to go. This is the old steel one, and basically that's the reason why I didn't want to run this one, is just because that's a little bit sloppy, where the new style is going to index perfectly in there and there'll be no slop. All right, so this is going to be a bit of a pain to get in place, and I know that because without an adapter it doesn't fit all that great, and the adapter is only going to make it worse, but I think we can do it. All right, so that's about where it lined up before. James, if you show them from the front, you can show how far down it sticks. So that's about where it's set. Now we can roll it uphill. That's as far as we can go because that hits the floor. Somewhere in there. Oh, James, can you grab, I had a Sharpie. Can you grab the Sharpie on the table?
Mark one?
Yep. All right, so that's the max. We'll make a line for the max. That's where it was. So I think ideally we'd be somewhere in here. Yeah, so you can see the maximum line. So we just want to go in the first hole. Okay. I know it was close with the stud sticking out before with no spacer. So it's going to be tight. Oh, look at that, James. Uh-oh. Spoke too soon.
Oh no.
So close.
Yeah, so close.
I think if you just lift up ever so slightly, I think this will go in where it needs to. The mount's already loose, so it just needs to. It's like I know it'll fit when it's in, it just.
That's so close. It's like right there. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully that's permanent.
Oh
yeah.
Yep.
Something went in.
Okay, I'm gonna call Chris if this ever has to come out. There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, what's hitting me?
Shifter.
All right, yeah, that's. All right, guys, I'm an idiot, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I got the transfer case in, cross member and front drive line in, and measured the rear drive shaft, which does, by the way, have to be shortened because it would like barely fit with no spacer. And of course, with a spacer, we need to shorten it. So the drive shaft's at the drive shaft shop right now. But the reason I'm an idiot is because, boom, we got the transfer case back out. I got everything installed, but I forgot to torque these Allen bolts to spec. And I think I even remember saying something like, what's the torque spec on them? Totally spaced it, walked away, did something else for a minute, and then went, put the thing back together. So we pulled the transfer case out again. We're just cleaning the gasket stuff off, and then we'll put it back in the truck. So don't forget to torque your bolts, especially on ones that you can't get to when things are put back together. Right, James?
Yes, sir. Almost. You don't need that?
Yeah, I probably should use a funnel. Okay, go in the middle, and then press the brake pedal a few times. Whoa. Do it again, again. Again. That's crazy how much power it takes to work the Hydro Boost. Okay, good? That's good. All right, I think we're more or less bled out. And I do owe a huge shout out to Driveline Service of Colorado Springs. They got this thing shortened and balanced, turned around in one day. All right, so now the underside of the truck is pretty much 100% done, other than the exhaust. That is the only thing that we have left to do. So because we've been working on this thing for the better part of a year, I figured I'd give you guys kind of a quick overview of the whole project. So we got the 5.3 LS swap, obviously, that's kind of the latest thing that we've been doing. Custom oil pan. That right there is a ZR2 cast iron front differential with an all-wheel drive Olds Bravada passenger axle shaft. So that's like the strongest diff housing I could find for a 7.25 IFS. All new rebuilt front suspension, four-door Blazer sway bars for, you know, stiffer, better handling and whatnot. Basically a stock 4L60, NV149, full-time all-wheel drive transfer case, clocked up now for better ground clearance, better drive shaft clearance. Exhaust is gonna run over there. Have our new drive shaft in, you just saw that. Out to the back where we have an 8.5-inch 10-bolt rear end from a ZR2 S10 again. And then of course it's all riding back here on a custom 3-link suspension that we finished up this summer. We've got some 18x9 Corvette wheels, 275/45/18 tires. There's the panhard bar back there. Viking coiled over shocks. So yeah, that's pretty much the chassis. And then, like I said, underneath this truck is pretty much done. It's other than exhaust, and we'll take care of that. Maybe this episode, maybe next, I'm not sure yet. But now that we have the drive shaft in, I want to see all 4 wheels turning. All right, this will be the first all-wheel drive test of the cycle. So it's cool to see all 4 wheels of the truck turning, and right now we theoretically could go for our first test drive, but Unfortunately, I'm still waiting on that stinking radiator. So for now, I'm not gonna go drive it. Instead, we're gonna pivot and start on the exhaust. Now, with the final goal, horsepower-wise, that we have for this truck, between 700 and 800 horsepower from a supercharged like 6.2, I've got to have dual 3-inch exhaust. That's what I want to run to have enough flow to support that power level. So here's what we're going to start with. This is a Hooker Blackheart LS swap exhaust system for an S10, and it has dual 3-inch stainless pipe that goes from the engine all the way back to the muffler. And this is the axle dump version. Inside the muffler, it has an X crossover to help scavenging, and I always like how the X pipe style crossover sounds. And it has a very nice compact routing over here, so we can fit the muffler between the frame rail, which is going to be like here, and the drive shaft, which is going to be like here. The only bad part about this setup is it's designed for a single cab short box 2-wheel drive S10, where the transmission sits in the middle and the exhaust routes around the back of it, where we have an extended cab 4-wheel drive based, technically all-wheel drive, truck, and we're gonna have to do the crossover in front of the transmission, or kind of in front of the pan. So I figured, though, this is a great starting point because it has almost enough material to do exactly what I need, and that was the main reason right there, is I love how those mufflers are so tight and compact. But the long-term goal for the exhaust, I probably won't get it all done today, but the long-term goal, you probably noticed those guys back there. I want to run tailpipes out of the back of the Blackheart muffler, across the axle, and into these Flowmaster Pro Series shorty mufflers. And I really, really love how these guys sound. It's a laminar flow design, and I've used them on a few different projects, but long term I want to have those on there. So I'm actually on the road as I'm doing the edit for the video that you're watching right now, and I realize I gotta remind you about the Holidays annual sale that's going on right now. They have huge savings on over 6,200 items, and Flowmaster Exhaust is actually one of the things that you can get on sale, just like we have the Pro Series shorty mufflers that we're putting onto the S10. But anyway, with the holidays sale, they have 20% off MSRP on over 6,200 items. Flowmaster Exhaust, Holley EFI intakes, MSD ignition, Simpson race products, Bear brakes, and a whole lot more. There will be a link below this video for you to check out and get your 20% off deal. So check them out if you're doing an LS swap, an LT swap, or maybe if you're like me and you're traveling to another state and you're putting a 600 horsepower LSA engine in a particular 6-wheel drive truck and you need some Holley parts for that as well. Either way, click the link below, guys. Back to the action. All right, first thing we're gonna do, just weld this reducer on. Goes from 2.5 at the collector up to the 3-inch at the exhaust that the whole system will be made from. James, if you would hold these two pipes together so they line up, I'm going to hold this one on the other end and make a couple of marks.
Over here, good.
Okay, make a mark, and make a mark on mine. Perfect. I want this to be perfect because this a tiny bit off on that one joint makes a huge difference on the other end. Right there, just one short line. Yep. So just a little while later, we have the driver's side portion of the exhaust kind of mocked up and ready to finish weld or at least up until that portion right there. So all 3-inch, we've got a little kick out away from the manifold, down around the drive shaft, under the transmission pan, leave room for the heat shield and go up and over the top. And then I've left enough room for the passenger side pipe right there, which will kind of go up and over a little bit. But yeah, off to a decent start. So let's get to welding. Well, skipping ahead in time just a little bit, we have the first part of the driver's side pipe done, and I didn't film it, but I have started on the passenger side as well. Kind of drops down there and heads back, and it points right to the cross member. Obviously, that's not going to work, but I had planned, I just left a little extra. I'm going to kind of jog this up and over. That way I can catch a hanger right here on the original one. And that's going to set the pipe over just a little bit, which should give me a straight shot into the muffler. This one's just tacked together, so I'll do a little bit more finish welding. On this guy here, I went ahead and I got both O2 bungs in, one for the narrow band, one for the wide band. So we'll just continue on, get a little bit more welding done on that side, and then, oh, the big challenge I was going to tell you guys, the big challenge that I'm going to face here is getting this stuff in and out, because it's kind of tight underneath the truck. My goal is to have a V-band on these two pipes. This one, have it just come right over the cross member and have a V-band on the end, one for each side. But there's quite a bit of challenge that we're going to have to face getting these in and out in one piece. The only thing I may have to do is cut it a little bit shorter and have like a V-band somewhere in here, which wouldn't be the end of the world. Basically, I can get my piece all mocked up, and if I have to come back after the fact and cut it right here and put a V-band, we'll just do that and then have one connection here, solid run of pipe up into, maybe I'll like weld it to the muffler and have the next connection at the back of the muffler. We'll see, but that's the plan. So I unfortunately was unable to get the S10 exhaust complete and go for our first unofficial test drive, but we did at least fire it up and make all 4 wheels move, so sort of kind of that counts, but I know it actually doesn't count for a fun first test drive. But don't worry, that is going to be coming up very soon. Right now I'm actually in Utah. I'm down at Matt's place, and we're getting the 408 cubic inch supercharged LSA motor that we built about a month or 2 ago. We're getting it installed into the spud truck, and we're almost ready to fire it up. It's actually Tuesday as I sit here doing this edit, but the engine's in the truck. It's mostly wired. We've got to like build some exhaust for that. We've got to finish up the fuel system, and hopefully before the end of this week, we will go on the first test drive of the spud truck. So it's December. We're like wrapping up the year. We got 2 big projects, Matt's and mine, that will both get done before the end of this year. And so in the very next video that you see, you should see the first fire up of the LSA supercharged 6x6 Ram truck, which is going to be awesome. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Come back next week for some fun supercharged sounds.